Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for October 18th. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong, and with me today is Scally. How you doing, Scally?
I'm good. Excited to talk about such an eventful day in the Big Brother house. Final four really winding down, but keeping us entertained, right?
Of course, of course. We are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. It was day 74 in the house, and we had the veto competition. But before the veto competition, Christmas was talking to the cameras. I know everybody was waiting with bated breath. Why was she so upset yesterday? Maybe we will finally find the answers, and we did. She was just mad that Enzo put her up.
Yeah, nominations are very impactful at Final Four. They mean a lot, so it makes sense to get upset over these. Christmas. Come on, Chris. You've been here before. It does not matter who's going up, but of course, Christmas obviously is going to spin this into something to get very angry about.
Yeah, she felt so betrayed.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, I had to surrender. I don't want everyone to think that I've surrendered in this game. Yesterday, I just had to surrender to my feelings. But today, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. I know lots of people, hoping that Christmas was ready to go, see a little excitement, but yeah, no, Christmas trying to turn it on last minute here, it seems like.
Yeah, but she feels so betrayed. How dare he put her on the block? She says, I'm not going to listen to him now on who to vote out. Not after the betrayal of putting me on the block. I will vote out who I want.
Oh, yes, because that was definitely the deal breaker. Definitely changed everything by being put on the block. So many options, had to do Christmas, her closest ally in Enzo of the season, but it happens.
Yeah. She also does say that she believes that if Nicole won the veto, she would keep her. She would vote out Cody.
I mean, when you see logic there, because probably not a bad move for Nicole to do. People have been debating whether or not does Nicole finally take that shot. I think it's a lot more likely in the final three. Like, I walk through this door, Vasai walk through this door. But yeah, I would have liked to, it would be nice to theorize, talk about. But does Nicole make that decision at Final Four? I don't know.
No.
No.
All
No.
right. So that's what Christmas is up to. We learned why she was so upset yesterday. It was because she got put. Even though she was upset before she got put on the block, she I guess got upset that she was also put on the block. I guess. So,
well, it wasn't hard to see coming, to be fair.
yeah, and she. I mean, look, she also talked a lot about how my mom likes to say that I make the honey badger look like a honey bear. And I'm such a honey badger. Everyone go watch that YouTube video so you can see it's a cute honey badger, and I'm just like the honey badger, and I'm not gonna lose this veto.
Okay. I don't know if I follow the metaphor of Christmas, but
You didn't watch the
sure.
video.
Okay, I'll have to revisit it apparently.
Yeah. All right. So we get to the veto competition, and Cody wins the final four, power of veto, and that's it. It's a wrap. Big Brother 22 it's been a great ride, Scally. It's been fun. It's been great talking to you guys all season long. Cody, he's a good winner. You gotta give him some props. He won the game, and that's all we've got for you today, and for the rest of the season. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next season. Bye bye.
It's good.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, we'll see. Because I don't know. This is basically obvious. We can't get anything exciting here. The most likely outcome was never in doubt. Cody was winning this veto. So it's Cody and Enzo staying off the block, going to final three. It's what we expected, for quite some time right now. Everyone thought Nicole might be, pull out this second win. Turns out maybe it's Derek. So, we'll get a two-time winner, multiple scenarios, but we'll see what happens.
Yes. So Cody with the veto, that means he will be heading to the final three. He does plan on evicting Christmas, so he will be there with Nicole and Enzo. They both, at this moment, still, as far as I'm aware, plan on taking him. I do believe he would beat both of them. So that's why it's. I was thinking about it, and I don't think I've ever seen a person so likely to win the game at the final four as so set up. The closest I think honestly is Dan in season 10, where because Jerry was just so not. He's never gonna win that final three. Dan was so locked in, and Derek in 16 was super locked in. He had a little bit of a, he kind of needed to once they won the final four, he was in there with Victoria and Cody, and then it was but is Cody really gonna take Derek? And then he did. So yeah, he was just about this setup. And then really, Dan in 14 again, only he wasn't going to win that time.
Gonna say people might have thought the same about Tyler. So, let's, we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
but
I didn't feel the same about Ty. I felt like Casey had a chance to beat him, and I felt like JC had a chance to beat him.
True.
And so, but yes, it feels, and that does not mean that it is actually over, of course, but it is looking extremely likely that Cody has got this thing. He celebrates alone after winning the veto. He says, "Let's go. Let's go, Casey, let's go." Yeah. Shout out Casey.
Of all the shout outs, was not expecting.
She really took ownership of this let's go thing. Now he feels like he needs to give credit when he says let's go.
That's true. It's good he's citing his sources on his celebration. But if you don't see a big reaction out of Cody for winning the game, that's because he got it all out after this veto competition. It was okay, 25% chance Cody goes home this week, 75% chance he locks the game and it's over. So that was basically where we were at. And that 75% chance seems to have come through so far.
Yes. So he's very excited. He says, I took a risk, big risk, big reward. I essentially, let Enzo take that final four HOH in order to make sure that Christmas did not win so that she would be vulnerable. And now I won the veto. I'm going to be able to send her home, and it's paid off. And I'm heading to the final three with Enzo and Nicole. I'm feeling very good. He's just just watch it. One of them is definitely going to cut me, but whatever. I'm in the final three. I'm getting there. Derek, shout out Derek.
Yeah. No, it definitely seems likely. We'll see how it develops. If you, in the 0% chance that Cody does not find himself in part three, I could definitely see a little more of them, talking. Well, we won part one, part two. Why are we going to take Cody? But let's face it, Cody's winning part one, probably also going to win part two and part three. So, we're going to see Cody there. But, it's possible. These people are very self-interested, but we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I think that really the only way right now that Nicole and Enzo ever compare notes is if Cody loses part one and part two, because they don't really have any incentive to compare notes. Getting themselves to take each other isn't even worth it right now, because the more likely scenario is that Cody's going to be the one deciding. So why are you comparing notes and making it less likely that Cody will take you and giving the other person ammunition? So he would have to lose both parts, and that just really doesn't seem very likely. I mean, Nicole even talks to Cody later, like I don't even need part 1. I just need to win part 2.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Cody's like, great.
Yeah, exactly. Like Nicole is the threat on this endurance comp. Like we saw Nicole and Cody drop out like right in succession to give it to Danny on the wall. So feel like it's probably between them two. And if Nicole is feeling like, let's just let Cody have this one and I'll win part 2, I'm not feeling great about Cody not winning that first part.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it, like part 1 of the final 3 HOH last season, if we're going by last season at least, was like an endurance obstacle course.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not like something that Cody would just wreck everyone on. Granted, I feel like they've been doing more throwback competitions than the recent ones. But it's not even necessarily going to be like something like a wall or a hangy thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm kind of, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but I'm kind of expecting the hanging one, the disc hanging one, from BB14 and many others, where they slam them into the wall, because we never got spinning discs. So they kind of have the option, I feel like, to do a spinning, not spinning this time, but like disky hanging one.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about that one. We haven't seen it. It's definitely a staple, but I don't know. Maybe is it because it's too hard to set up? Was the Power Veto that Kevin won, is that the new like spinning disc challenge where they're like hanging in the air? But I wouldn't hate seeing that one. Feel like that would probably level the playing field a little bit for him.
So Nicole talks to the cameras after the veto. She says that the competition did come down to her and Cody, but she didn't. She lost because she didn't believe in herself.
Yeah.
She didn't think that she'd be able to beat Cody because she's not physical enough, and because of that, she beat herself.
That's it. She talks about like, oh, I got a point, but just because he didn't know the answer. So Nicole is not, coming in with the confidence that if she's not believing in herself here, what's to make me think she's going to believe in herself in that final HOH? But we'll see. Nicole, get a little boost, motivated to win that game, but enough against Cody, not so sure.
And she says, I'm happy for him, though. I'm happy. I just wish that I was bringing myself to the final 3, which, again, definitely an indication that she wanted Cody to be safe. She just wanted to be the one taking him. And, it just makes me wonder how she's going to say the same thing if he takes her to the final 2. Like, I'm happy that we're here. I just wish that I was the one taking you, Cody.
I do wonder, like, Enzo flags up a little bit, coming up in a second, where it's like, oh, like maybe this will be good because Nicole is seeing like, okay, Cody's bringing me one step further. Like, how's that going to impact? Like, let's let that marinate for 11 days. But ultimately, I don't think it's necessarily going to make the difference there. So Nicole can. Last time she got brought to the final 2, I'm sure she knows that it was only a 1 vote margin last time. Let's try to, build on that. But it needs to ultimately find herself winning 2 of the last 3 competitions in order for that to happen.
Yeah, and I will say as well that I think that Enzo's really off the mark here. I think that Cody bringing Nicole to the final 3 through his win actually makes it more likely that she takes him, because that's kind of how she plays, that she now owes him. Like, he brought her to the final 3. Like, how could she then turn around and cut him at the final 3 after he brought her over Christmas, the layup? Like, that would be much. If she took herself, then it's like, well, what did you do for me lately, at least, Cody? But like, on top of that, he's done so much for her in the game up until this point. And like, yes, she kept him safe at the final 5, but he kept her safe at the final 6 and at the final 4, and so on and so forth. So they've kind of been, that's how they've been operating all season long, is like, hey, you've been protecting me, so I owe you this. And I think that the fact that he won this veto makes it more likely likely that she will take him to the final two.
Especially with Enzo being so well liked and like visibly well liked by people. It's not like it's Cody versus Christmas. It is both ways. I'm going against a very likable person in that final two. So am I going to be that cutthroat? Not so sure about that.
Yeah. So Cody does talk to Nicole. Nicole just is like, you just know Christmas is going to be talking to Enzo, talking to you all week long. It's going to be annoying. And he's just like, there's no chance. Enzo can want what he wants. Christmas can want what she wants. There's no chance. Don't even talk to me about it, Nicole. I'm never going to cut you. I don't care if it's best for my game or if it's not best for my game. I would never cut you, Nicole. I took Derek. Same thing. Doesn't matter to me. I'm never going to do it.
And that is a very good data point to point in his favor where, even if it's not the right decision necessarily, I'm going to do it. But it's definitely the right decision. Cody knows that. It's the right move. He's always taking Nicole here. And not necessarily for any loyalty reasons, because we'll see how that final three decision goes if Cody wins part three. But obviously, Christmas is cutting him. He knows Christmas is cutting him. He's not letting Christmas get to that final three.
So Cody also talks to Enzo, and they talk about the final three and how they're in the final three and what they need to do in the final three to make sure they're in the final two. And Cody says, well, look, part one is endurance. Part two is going to be something elaborate but simple. But look, all we need to do is just make it to questions, and then we're just chilling. That's exactly what I did with Derek. We were both sitting in the end with questions. We knew we were going to take each other. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, just got to get Enzo to win a comp right at the end, but we'll see. Needs to, whether it's figuring out like questions or the physical or whatever the case may be, Enzo's going to have to really pull through if he wants to, be bringing someone to the final two rather than being brought necessarily.
I have a theory on who I think Cody's going to take to the final two. It's very, very elaborate but simple. It's whoever wins part two.
Yeah. Okay. I could
genuinely. I think that whoever he's sitting with next to with questions, I think he's going to double down on, hey, we're taking each other. And I think he's going to stay true to that.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely, especially with how it is now, where it's like they're going to be sitting on that for a while, knowing who the two competition winners are. It's a lot easier to just be consistently having conversations, reaffirming, and probably harder than, keeping that third person at bay and not having to like, okay, we're doing this together. It is like, I'm going to do this for you. And it's probably going to sting a little less when like they weren't going to have the decision anyway.
Like I said, I think Cody has a little bit of this too. Like, hey, who has helped me out the most this season? Certainly Enzo has to a degree. Nicole has to a degree, just at various points in the game. But I really just think it's going to be, who won that part two? Who's going to be sitting there in part three with me, telling me they're going to take me? Because I feel like he probably doesn't want to have to choose if he has the option, and that's at least a reason that he can be like, look, you lost part two, and so that's why I went this way, and since he can be both of them, it doesn't matter. So
hey, Cody, throw part three, it'll be fine. No, but I would, and especially like either one of them, whoever's sitting off the block, like they're already preparing for multiple days. Like if Cody wins, I'm going to the final two. If the other person wins, I'm probably not. So whereas the person in the final two is like, if I win, I'm going. If I lose, I'm going. So a lot easier for the person who thinks they have a 50% chance of going home to break the news that like you are going home, rather than the person who thought no matter what, I'm going through.
Yeah. So they also talk about how annoying Christmas is and how she's going to be talking with him all the time. I like that, like, in two conversations in a row, Cody is evoking the Derek decision to help him with both of his final twos, which obviously, I mean, it's a very good.
Yep.
That's literally the first thing I said when I heard that Cody was going to be on the season was, ooh, he's gonna do well because he's got a reputation for loyalty because he's famous for the decision he made, but he's actually not a very loyal player.
Yeah. It is just, I would say, invaluable, but maybe price it around $450,000 last time for how much this is worth. I mean, hey, he could be ending up with 550 rather than that original 500. So it maybe doesn't look so bad in retrospect because with how much it's helped him this season.
All right. Maybe you'd go as far as to say it's not one of the dumbest moves in Big Brother history. I don't know. Maybe if you go on a podcast and say something like that, then it's not that crazy. I don't know.
Let's see how the season finishes out, and see how all of the retrospectives. I'm sure there's gonna be many podcasts, so we'll see how those go before I go and crown that not one of the dumbest moves of all time.
All right. So Enzo says, "Hey, yo, we're both gonna make it to the end. We're gonna be sitting there, never nominated, yo, never once. That's it." He says that's why he didn't nominate Cody this week, so they could both have that sitting next to each other in the final two. And Cody says, and Cody said a couple of things yesterday that, honestly, like, that made me feel even better about him as a player, just because, like, there have been some close calls here in the end, and he's aware of that. He knew he was taking a risk, making sure that Christmas didn't win the HOH. I literally talked about that on Thursday, and I talked about the cost benefit like sort of analysis that he'd have to do, and that I thought he would go this way. But sometimes I talk about that and, like, it's not what they're actually thinking, like, consciously, but he talked about it consciously. And then I also talked with Puya about, like, I think it would be actually better for Cody to be sitting on the block because then Enzo has more leverage with Christmas. We saw that play out a little bit. And Cody says to Enzo, I was actually thinking that I probably should go on the block just to please Christmas to give us more odds of going in a certain direction, but it worked out all right. And I was like, okay, so he did see that. He just also probably was tempted by this idea of never touching the block, which also does have its benefits. So, again, at the very least, I was glad to see that he was aware of these things.
Yeah, Cody plays a dummy to get more airtime, and it's not completely true. Definitely has a good amount of strategic acumen. It was not just him being carried all the way through Big Brother 16 or this season, obviously. So good to see from Cody at least talking out the scenarios. I also like Enzo being like, oh, like, this is gonna go down like in Big Brother history. Like, it's very difficult for anything in modern Big Brother to like immediately get cemented as like a historic moment. Like, you're not Danielle and Jason. Let's calm down. But it's impressive. But for something to be like added to the pantheon, a little difficult there. And so,
yeah, Enzo says, this is gonna be remembered for the rest of the season, yo. For the rest of for the rest of like Big Brother, yo.
Maybe not as in a positive light as Enzo would hope for, but people will certainly be talking about the end game of Big Brother 22 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I do think he's right. I mean, for as much as they're not Danielle and Jason, this is the first time since Danielle and Jason, since season 3, that a duo has managed to make it to the final 3 without ever being nominated. And then, if one of them wins the final 3 HOH, then that is something that Danielle and Jason did fail to do in their season. So, that is notable. And then the only other person, again, who's really gone to the end without being nominated is, again, Derek. So, like, because no, Paul doesn't count. He was... pendant of protection does not mean that you weren't nominated. So I mean, it really is like, it is a very elite club there, but yeah, it's still gonna make it to the end. Yeah,
definitely.
Danielle and Jason, neither of them won. So
sure, majorly impressive. I don't like to talk about things that Danielle and Jason failed to do. They didn't fail in my mind, but it happens.
Yeah. Still hurts.
Still.
All right. Well, Cody, Nicole, and basically Nicole comes in and she goes, final three. And they celebrate that they're in the final three. And Cody says, Core 4, man. Danny, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that core four. Wow, the real alliance of the sea. Fine. I mean, hey, it has gotten these three here, but didn't work out so well for one of the members.
Yeah, and Enzo says, the core not so four, yo.
These were always the three. Like it was obvious who was number four in there, and it's played out that way too.
And you know, it's really was the Brigade 2.0. This was one of the Brigade 2.0s that we talked about in the very beginning of the season. That one of them was Connect 4 with Bailey and Davon, and the other one was the Core 4 with Nicole and Danny, and this is the one that succeeded, and they even cut their mat at exactly the spot where Matt went.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. I remember Connect Four so fondly. Great, there was hope there, but Core Four seemed like the more likely one. Has played out that way. Brigade has proven yet again to be a successful formula, but it's what we said would happen from Enzo, just not exactly who we thought he would be here with since the preseason.
Yeah, and as much as it was like this alliance made it to the end, it was like it was a brigade nested within other brigades,
Sure.
nested within a bomb squad, nested within a Venn diagram of crews. So it was not really the same thing as the brigade, which was a much simpler concept at the time, although still revolutionary. But they made it there. And then there it is, final three.
They all shared like one big parachute alliance that was the committee rather than sharing, individual pieces on the board.
Yeah. So that's really mostly that's what I got. There's not really a lot else that went down. They played some games. They talked about little like ticks they have. That's basically it. Anything else you wanted to bring up, Scally?
No, I am fine to not discuss the skits that they were putting on for the feeds or Nicole asking Cody the weirdest questions ever in the little like game. Like, no, Cody has not, eaten his toenail. Like, stop, Nicole. But otherwise, yeah, you can skip right over that.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want to hear about that, I guess, but
there's a rewind feature. You can figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, I did watch some of it just to make sure that there wasn't anything like super good there, but
super bad is definitely the way to describe it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us then. I will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. We've just a little over a week left to go. So, so let's stick in here. We'll finish it out. But we'll have some fun with it. Of course, tomorrow night there will be an episode recap after the episode airs, and then Tuesday night we'll have the Stock Watch Roundtable. I'm also going to be live later today on Twitch, 5 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Taron Armstrong. We're going to be playing some Among Us with Puya and Liana and Melissa and a bunch of other very fun people. So make sure you tune in for that. Among Us is a social strategy-esque game of murdering people on spaceships, and people are secretly imposters and murderers, and you try to secretly kill people and then lie about it and be like, what are you talking about? I'm totally innocent. It's very fun. So if you want to see that, again, twitch.tv/Taron Armstrong later today. Check it out. Scally, what are you up to?
I'm jumping around Among Us streams every so often, so see you guys there. Otherwise, tweeting about Davon for America's Favorite House Guest and over on Brian_Scally on Twitter.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'll see you next time.